Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to BSR Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, race number 8 of season 58 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. This is the race that the drivers have been looking towards ever since they took the green flag at Talladega to begin this season, because at the end of the night, when the checkered flag waves, we are going to know the drivers that are going to battle it out in this season's playoffs. At least 12 drivers will make it into the playoff grid. At this point in time, 14 drivers are eligible. We'll have to wait and see if that's the final number by the time this race event comes to a close. I'm Seth Cole, being joined once again this week by Matt McIntyre. And Matt, we talk about the different agendas week after week, but here tonight, there are a lot of different agendas, because you got those drivers that at this point in time, they've got the win in the bank. They know that they can stay above the top 20 in the points. They're safe. They're moving on to the playoffs. Drivers that haven't won, they're trying to stay in the top 12 in points. There's about a half dozen drivers that mathematically could point their way into the top 12, and then there's a whole bunch of drivers, about a dozen in total, that are in a must-win situation, and then couple that all together at a track that these drivers don't have the most experience at. This is going to be one crazy regular season finale.
Oh yeah, I have a feeling we have some carnage in store.
Going to be
'Cause you got
34 drivers, I believe, by my last count, that are going to take the green flag. And with that being said, that means that one driver has actually already pointed their way into the playoffs. Congratulations to Bobby Farrell, the points leader. He needed to have a 48-point gap between himself and 12th in the standings. If we had had full field, about 40-41 drivers, then he probably would have had to finish ahead of about 3 or 4 drivers. But since there's only 34 in the field, he's locked in, whether he wins here tonight or not. We'll update the other drivers as well that currently would find themselves locked in with their race victories, but we'll first take you through your starting lineup for tonight's 66-lap event. It's Richard Martin, DMAR. He's going to start in the pole spot here tonight alongside of Chuck McClure, 17. Doug Hulick shares row 2 with Cy Jones. Row 3 is going to be Josh Metallic and Jason Scheck. Row 4 finds Terry Bombard and Andrew Miller. And then the top 10 will be completed by Jeff Crivello and John Godfrey. Row 6, Bernie Mobbs and Mark Paglia. Joe DeSpiritos in row 7 with Donnie Garrett. Row 8, Glenn Harris and JT Mayhew. Row 9 is going to be Billy Elliser and Bobby Farrell. And row 10, the top 20, completed with Robbie Nisus and David Cannon. Grant Wesley, he's going to make up the inside of row 11. He'll be alongside of Kelly Causey. Row 12 finds Ron Hagelin, making his return into the series after a couple of weeks hiatus. He's joined by Brian Schilling. In row 13, it's Keith Hughes, the two-time winner, Tom Dixon, alongside of him. In row 14, Tate Dorsey and Tim Knopfsker. And then completing the top 30, Bob Dixon and Jeremy Jeffries. I'm understanding we're going to have a race restart here, so we'll just finish up the rest of the running order. It's going to be Bob Dixon and Jeremy Jeffries. They'll be the completion of the top 30. Bob Sire, Dave Melson, they're 31st and 32nd. Rodney Sullins and Bob Seminara in 33rd and 34th. Herein it was a mechanical issue for somebody, a keyboard issue. And so we're having a quick little reset here, but it gives us enough time to be able to talk, Matt, about some of the scenarios coming into tonight's race. So as of right now, drivers that we absolutely know are going to battle for the championship. We just mentioned Bobby Farrell. He's going to point his way in via the top 12. You got former winners Grant Wesley, Josh Metallic, Joe DeSpirito, Keith Hughes, John Godfrey rather, and Doug Hulick. But there's some names that are able to either point their way in or have to must win their way in that make things very interesting tonight. Drivers that could point into the top 12 include Jeff Crivello, Donnie Garrett, Chuck McClure, and Tim Knopfsker. But then you look at the drivers that have to win their way in. You got Bob Dixon, Glenn Harris, Mark Paglia, Jason Scheck, Wayne Pribnow, Cy Jones. I mean, these are some big names that were mired down in the point standings this season, either attributing to poor qualifying efforts due to the random qualifying or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time with wrecks. I mean, how do you mentally prepare yourself at a super speedway for a must-win scenario?
Just hope you get in the right spot at the right time. There's Talladega or super speedway racing as a whole is just you can't really plan for it because usually, from at least from my experience, whenever you try to plan something, it goes wrong immediately.
Well, there's a bunch of drivers as well that come into tonight's race inside of the top 12 in points that could very easily mathematically, if they have a bad run, fall outside of that top 12. A couple of drivers that fit that scenario include Rodney Sullins, our pole sitter Richard Martin, Bob Seminara, Kelly Causey, and the guy who comes into this race as the cut line driver, the 31 of Bernie Mobbs. So I'm going to kind of amend my question to you. If you're one of those drivers, and you're trying to play defense here tonight, does that make your job a little bit easier, able to know where everybody is in the field and be able to plan where you want to slot in accordingly?
No, if anything, that makes your job harder because not only do you have to try to figure all of that out, you have to try to expect when the wrecks are going to happen. And like I said before, good luck with that on super speedways.
Just makes it all the more important for those drivers that were able to pick up victories this season and know that they mathematically cannot fall outside the top 20 in points because they can kind of go for broke here tonight. Hey, if they end up having the truck wrecked, well, they know they're going to be still battling for the championship, and who knows, be a little bit aggressive, you might be able to pick up another victory and more bonus points once the standings are reformatted. But here we go. Getting ready for the green flag, the final green flag of the regular season here tonight at BSR is Richard Martin, Chuck McClure gonna get us Owen. Oh, we got a wreck already in the back. Looked like that might have been Bob Sire. I think I saw Rodney Sullins, Jason Scheck back there. The caution is already out here, and we haven't even gotten to turn 2 on lap 1.
Billy Elliser, uh, Bob Seminara. Man, I don't know what happened. It looked like somebody lagged back there, or gap lag. I'm not sure which one you have to say here.
We can call it lag here in NR.
Okay,
We don't get
okay,
the
okay,
nasty
that's
letters for calling it lag. There you see the caution lights on, and with the caution coming out this early, it was frozen field at the time that the yellow flag flew. Apparently, Chuck McClure must have just been ahead of Richard Martin at the time the yellow was thrown, and there you see those skid marks coming past the start-finish line. That was interesting. See if we can find out what happened as the field's going to pick up pace car on the backstretch here. I believe it starts with the 027 of Bob Sire. And the question is too, just how much contact was exchanged. Is it going to cause aero problems for drivers here right out of the gate?
Yeah, I don't know if he lagged or something, but the 38 before they even get to the start finish line is not only below him on halfway, but also inside his truck, and it just immediately snaps back and just spins both of them.
Big hit
And
there
that's
with the
what
front end for Bob Sire into that inside wall, that blue inside wall.
then the
Big
38 coming off that wreck just goes up and collects 712, the 44, and the 26.
an
Just
aerial view. See if we can get a look at what you're describing here.
yeah, just right before the finish line. I'd say about 30 feet before. It's like Rodney's truck just goes into Bob's.
It has all the look really of a truck maybe missing a shift. The only thing is though, it didn't really look like Bob Sire was that far off the back bumper of the truck in front of him. And things were a little
Well,
bit stacked up back there. I think I ended up seeing Jeremy Jeffries and Dave Melson and Tim Nosker stack up on the top side there. So it might have been drivers just kind of trying to preempt when the green flag was going to fly.
And the only reason I'm thinking it's lag is, at least from my perspective, while I was watching the initial green flag run, it looked like somebody, maybe Bob, disappeared for a second and then came back from the one cam.
Elliser, Seminara, Sullins, Sire, Jason Scheck amongst those involved in this wreck. Two of those drivers came into this race above the cut line, but not by much. That being the 712 of Seminara and the 38 of Rodney Sullins. They both got contact. We don't know if it was a lot of contact, but it'll be interesting to see when we go back green how up to speed these drivers are going to be. If I look at the point standings coming into this one, Seminaro was, if my math's correct, 11 points ahead of the cut line. Rodney Sullins was 17 points ahead of the cut line. So with a field of 34, definitely mathematical that either one of them could fall outside of the top 12 in point standings. And coming into tonight, neither one have a victory to be able to fall back on. So it'll be interesting restart here to not only watch the battle up here at the front, but also just keep tabs on those drivers towards the back. See if they've got enough aero power to be able to stay up with the lead group and, more importantly, work their way up to the front. I mean, bear in mind, too, we've heard it week after week from these drivers. They say the one thing that has really messed them up in terms of being able to formulate a strategy, a super speedway series strategy, is the random qualifying. You qualify towards the back, it's entirely different than when you're out in the clean air qualifying up at the front. And we just saw a number of drivers that did not get the benefit of that good draw. Started in the back final few rows, getting involved in that stack up in that first caution.
Yeah, just a case of Talladega, burn screws being Talladega-esque.
So we're waiting for the lights to go out atop the pace car here. It doesn't look like anybody out of the race, though there are quite a number of drivers that have come to pit lane. A lot of them drivers that started this race towards the back. Looks like Brian Schilling, Jeremy Jeffries, Tim Knopfsker, Hughes. They've come to pit lane, and then drivers that were involved in that incident, Sullins, Elliser, Seminara, Scheck, and Bob Sire, they've all hit pit lane. A couple of other drivers actually look like they came to pit road the lap prior, including the guy that went to victory lane last week, Grant Wesley. Ron Hagelin and Dave Melson have also been to pit lane here under this caution period.
Looks like Keith might be playing the fuel strategy game because all the way down the backstretch he was under that yellow line on the flat.
He uses 19 points behind the overall points leader, Bobby Farrell. Has those two victories, so we know that in terms of race win bonus points, he is going to have the advantage there, but also trying to get, I believe it's 15 bonus points for winning the regular season championship. So, yeah, those drivers that already have the victories, they have now adjusted their focus to trying to be top of the points when this one comes to a close.
We
I
got
don't
some
think
more
I
trucks
mentioned this,
going.
so I'm just going to quickly mention it. Jeremy Jeffries is also locked into the playoffs with his victory. I don't think I added his name to the list when I was going down the drivers that had previously won this season, so my apologies on that. We should get the lights atop the pace car this time, and Chuck McClure is going to take the inside line for this restart. So basically, our front row at the initial start of the race just gets a little flip reverse. 17 on the bottom and 43 up on the top.
So, based on those that just came down pit road on this lap, I think the two trucks that might be slow from that incident are the 712 of Seminara and the 44 of Scheck. Might want to keep an eye on those two. Oh, and the 027 and the 26. Oh, wait, not the 26. Few trucks to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Here you see a couple more that I guess topped off. Robbie Nices, Tim Knopfsker, Brian Schilling, the defending champion of the series. He's still looking for his first win on the year, but he is currently sitting in a playoff position, top 12 in the points. So it's going to be Chuck McClure who will lead us back to green. Richard Martin in second, Doug Hulick third, Cy Jones in fourth, and Josh Metallic is going to be the top five. Andrew Miller sixth, John Godfrey seventh. Eighth will be Terry Bombard. Then it's Mark Paglia and Jeff Crivello, the top 10. Working our first caution of the day. Came out immediately after we took the green flag. Let's see if we can get some green flag laps in. It's also going to be interesting to see later on down the road here if green flag pit stops end up coming into play. If I recall correctly, last year we had green flag pit stops near the end of that regular season finale. Brian Schilling was very off the pace, had engine damage. Huge push at the end from, if I recall correctly, I think it was Tim Nofsker, and ended up going on to win that race. A truck that definitely had aero and maybe engine damage went on to win. So stranger things have happened in the regular season finale when drivers are in a must-win situation. We'll see if something like that will play out here in season 58. Here we come into the restart zone. Green flag is in the air, and McClure gets us back underway at BSR.
I believe it, especially if we get a big wreck like we got last week. That just throws everything out the window.
One thing you have to avoid, too, if you are in a playoff scenario, whether it's trying to point your way in or win your way in towards the end of this race, is you've got to make sure that you don't do something that's going to put you in a situation where you're going to end up getting a post-race penalty. 3 drivers coming into tonight off the heels of last week's race at Talladega got EOL penalties in the final results, so you've got to be aware of that.
So far, it seems like everybody's able to keep up. Good thing, I guess, they were going at low enough speed.
Josh Metallic on that inside line. We've talked about it. It seems like here at BSR, that inside line has a lot more momentum than it does at Talladega, where everybody seems to migrate to the middle line. And there you see, Metallic restarted. I think it was in 5th place. And now he's up alongside of Chuck McClure for the race lead. He's got a rear decklet full of John Godfrey and Mark Paglia. It's Doug Hulick who picked up his first career win in this series, the very first time we came here to the Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway back in race number 2.
I think he'd like to get a little bit of redemption because, yeah, he got the win, but he got it off a screwy caution, so I feel like he'd want to get an actual win.
I mean, these super speedway races are all about right place, right time. I don't think he's going to discredit that victory at all. It was a 1,000 IQ play. Only had to travel about 1,000 feet off of pit road to the start finish line to be able to pick up that caution and eventually win the race. As Metallic, John Godfrey, 2 drivers that have already won this season. They know they're going to battle for the championship, but look who's behind them. The 28 of Mark Paglia, the 77 of Donnie Garrett. Garrett right now could point his way in. Paglia is in a must-win situation, 22nd in overall points. Three wide. It's around, what, the 10th, 11th position looks like. That's Andrew Miller, high,
back.
wide, and handsome there in the 47 in the 3rd line. Got David Cannon, Kelly Causey, and I believe that's Glenn Harris up there with him. Does Miller. Metallic and Godfrey, as soon as they got clear in the 17, they jumped up to the middle. That opens up the door for that Quality Care Ford F-Series. The Dale Jarrett throwback of Paglia to charge to the inside with help from Donnie Garrett. Like, based off my telemetry, all the drivers that were involved in that opening lap wreck, looks like they're still in this lead pack. Sire is straggling a bit. It looks like the 143 of Bob Dixon. Oh, looks like he might be dealing with some connection issues, actually. I didn't think he got involved in the wreck, so I was wondering why he was behind this group, but just saw him blink out there, so problems for him. Bob Dixon came into this race the first driver that is in a must-win situation to be able to get into the playoffs, 19th in overall points.
Yeah, he's coming back off pit road.
I'm guessing he might have fallen out of the server. He will fall off the lead lap here once the field comes around to catch him. Top line, starting to gain some more members. Richard Martin's jumped up there with Miller. Chuck McClure is now going to head that extreme outside line, but that inside line, they're continuing to get the forward momentum. The top two, maybe three, will be clear on Josh Metallic. That's the 338, third car on that inside line there of JT Mayhew. Nice to see him with the wheels on the ground. What was it, the last 10 minutes of practice, JT Mayhew was stuck right side up, upside down, just past the start-finish line of the catch fence, and it was a concerted effort by everybody to try to get him out of there. They eventually did.
Yeah, I was watching that with interest. It was definitely a chaotic scene.
JT, he is actually a driver that could win his way into the playoffs. Matter of fact, we can give you the whole list here of drivers to watch here tonight that if they win, they mathematically could point their way into the top 20 in the point standings for a last-minute playoff spot as Bobby Farrell got the apron there. Woo! Points leader was in a spot of bother, drifted up, and Richard Martin almost got in the back of him, so that was nearly our second caution of the night. But Bob Dixon, Greg Palmer, Glenn Harris, Mark Paglia, Jason Scheck, Wayne Pribnow, Cy Jones, JT Mayhew, Wiley Coate, Robbie Nices, Terry Bombard, and Dave Melson. Those were the drivers that came into tonight eligible of winning their way into the playoffs. I believe quite a number of them are not in the field here tonight. I don't believe the 5 of Wiley Coate's in the field. Wayne Pribnow, I believe, is not in the field, and Greg Palmer is not in the field. Greg Palmer, our well wishes sent to him. Understand that I believe it was last week he ended up taking a tumble off of a ladder. Was badly injured, so hope you get well, Greg, and hope to see you back on track very soon as that outside line, middle and outside line, they have dissipated, and just like that, you've got 6, 7, 8 cars on this inside line that have been able to edge ahead. The last of those, the Batmobile, number 45 of Tom Dixon there. I believe he is 6th on that inside line.
Meanwhile, they're lapping past Bob again. Unfortunately, it looks like he fell out of the server the second time. Definitely already.
He was already 2 laps down, so he'll fall a 3rd lap down. That puts him at a huge disadvantage. A driver that was in a must-win situation. Like that 027 of Bob Sire is starting to lose the pack here. Matt, don't know if that's necessarily the damage he sustained, which was a pretty heavy impact with the front end, or if it's the kind of classic case that we see sometimes at super speedways where you don't have somebody behind you pushing you, and so therefore you end up detaching from the lead pack and dropping away from the lead group.
Well, I was about to say, I think it's the second one, but he's decided to come to pit road. Maybe a little bit of a strategy call here.
There he is coming to pit lane. This is well before when these drivers were scheduled to make pit stops. And looks like he might be done for the night.
Yeah, he just called it.
Bob Sire out of the race, and with that retiring, I believe, let me just double check real quickly, the point scenario coming into tonight. Well, not yet. I was going to say, I thought that might put Brian Schilling and Joe DeSpirito locked in, but not quite yet. Those two would need to have 3 more drivers retire out of the race for them to be locked in on points. And how about this photo finish coming to the line? Big push for Richard Martin on the top. And did he get Paglia at the line? Scoring says yes.
Must have been by the narrowest of margins.
Wait and see what telemetry tells us was the interval. 2 1,000ths, they're saying. Martin over Paglia that last time by.
Man, what is it with close finishes lately?
I know, right?
Having a lot of them.
Yeah, driver in the field here tonight. That neon yellow number 88 of Grant Wesley. If anyone from last week was involved in a photo finish, you and I know very well about. Over on JTN, the NSRA Daytona 500 won 1,000th of a second victory over Jessica Shelton in what was a crazy 10-lap segment. So Grant's been on some
Oh
good
yeah.
momentum lately. That was his second win in less than a week at the time, and maybe he can get his third win in a week here tonight.
You can never count out those dang 88 Menards vehicles.
Grant's actually he's been on a bit of a hot streak. I believe he's a two-time winner over in the Talladega Nights series as well. That gets featured over on Tarnation TV. So yeah, the super speedway gods have been very kind. The Grant Wesley and the number 88 is, wow, that was nearly looking like a four-wide situation off of 4. Chuck McClure, I don't know if he had a bad bump, if he just drifted up, but he and Kelly Causey, their bumpers were not lined up at all off the final corner. And now, in typical RTG fashion, we're 3x3x3 all the way from the front to the back.
They're holding it together so far.
Well, you watch them going into turn 3 there, you can see no daylight between the bumpers of the 28, the 77, and the 338. The suck up on this setup must be really good that they get big runs down the back straightaway and they can lock those bumpers up by the time they get into turn 3. But you got to be careful when you're that third or fourth truck in line, because you don't want to push Donnie Garrett into Mark Paglia too late going into that third corner, because Paglia, of course, would be turning left at that point, and just the wrong timing of the bump could send him around. And if it's at the front of the field, it could have catastrophic results. We ended up seeing it last week in the final stages of that race, Matt, where up at the front, contact was made, it was going into turn 3, and very few drivers had an exit route to be able to get through.
Yeah, even the winner had a moment where he slid
He was on the
sideways.
wall, wasn't he? Yeah, you're right.
And second place was down on the bottom sideways. Nobody made it through that cleanly.
Well, speaking of the drivers that skated through, I do believe 2 of them are lined up in that middle line now, Wesley and Metallic. Actually just noticed that 338 sponsored by Chips Ahoy's got Cookie Monster on the back of the car there. That must be an interesting sight for Bobby Farrell to be looking at down the back straightaway. I think we got to keep an eye on this 92 because, you know, he's locked in now on points, but he doesn't have a victory. And he wants to make sure he gets those 15 bonus points. I think he's going to be gunning for a victory here tonight at all costs.
Yeah, he's the only one that's probably willing to risk that, knowing that he can do whatever and still be fine.
Now, you just saw a couple of drivers peel off for pit road, Tom Dixon and Andrew Miller. Remember, we had some drivers elect not to come to pit road under our only caution up to this point. So some drivers could go about 3 to 4 laps further than others. I think we're going to see a number of other drivers on pit road this lap. Paglia, Donnie Garrett, JT Mayhew, Bobby Farrell, Richard Martin. Those top 5, they have not been to pit lane yet, and we are at the point here where since the start of the race, this is when they would have to come to pit lane via the fuel window.
I definitely feel like we're getting set up for pit stops because they're starting to string out and get single file.
Yeah, here they come. Oh, even a number of drivers that had pit under the caution are coming down.
Whoa.
Donnie Garrett
you missed.
locked up that left front and the right front, I believe, and he is in the infield grass.
He made it under the commit cone, so I feel like if he goes back on pit road,
Yeah, he's coming back on the track. I don't know why he's coming back out onto the track, because I think you're right. I think he made the commitment cone.
Oh, I was on board with him. He definitely made the commit cone.
I'm not certain. It might be possible, even if you make the commitment cone, if you go up into the grass that far, it may be considered an unsafe entry, so you might get a 30-second penalty. He might be of the assumption that if he comes back out on the racetrack and pits the next time around, he'd be losing less time than the 30 seconds he would lose if he came to pit road after that spin. As we got another group here led by Kelly Causey. You got Sullins, Bombard, Jeremy Jeffries a part of this. It's going to turn the race lead over to, I believe, the 038 of Dave Melson, and yeah, Donnie Garrett. Oh, wow. Okay, so Donnie Garrett, things go from bad to worse. Apparently, he made the commitment line there, Matt, but he was too fast entering, so he has been hit with a black flag.
Oof. Yeah, I had a feeling the way he was locking that up to send himself out in the grass that he was not going to make that speed limit.
And remember, Donnie Garrett was not necessarily in a must-win scenario coming into this race. He was mathematically eligible to point his way into the top 12 as, Tim Knopfsker in the 088. This is the second, I think this is the second time he's come down pit lane. Nope, correction. This is actually a regularly scheduled stop for him. I thought I had seen him on pit road prior, and I was wondering if maybe he had missed his pit stall, but nope, this is regularly scheduled stop for him, as well as Billy Elliser and Jason Scheck.
I feel like he was one of the ones on the pit road after the first caution. That might be where you're getting that from.
I think you're right. I think somebody else just, it just faded off my screen, but I think somebody else just got hit with a black flag penalty. Don't know if they came down to serve it, and that's why it cleared or not. Might have been this car, 31 of Bernie Mobbs, coming off of pit lane just ahead of Donnie Garrett. Not 100% certain, though. I did see that there was another truck that had a black flag penalty on my scoring, but I did not see it until after it was cleared. So I think it could have maybe been that 31 truck. We're going to have a lot of drivers that are going to fall off the lead lap here with everything that just took place on pit lane. I think it's going to be Grant Wesley who's going to cycle around to the race lead with Paglia, Farrell, Mayhew, and Metallic, the top 5, and we'll wait until everybody gets up to speed before we figure out who would be in contention for the 2 lucky dog positions if we were to get a caution. But I mean, if we go back to those pit stops there, little surprising that the drivers that had come down, topped off the fuel tank during the first yellow flag, didn't stay out a little bit longer, decided to actually come to pit road with the drivers that had stayed out under the yellow.
Well, I feel like, yeah, they did. We got some fuel on the initial caution, but then I feel like they realized that strategically, as the race goes on, they'd be better off if they had a lot of people they could draft with.
That's a good call. Yeah. Safety in numbers, I guess. But it could make things interesting if we end up getting close to the end of this race, where if it comes down to maybe having an extra lap or 2 of fuel to make it the rest of the way, they're probably going to be kicking themselves thinking, if I come down pit road on the strategy I was on, I'd have been able to make it. They would have run out of fuel and I'd have been able to make it. But who knows? We still got a long ways to go in this race, 40 laps to go next time they come around. And we can update the drivers that at this point are scored 1 lap down, and it doesn't look like it's nearly as many as I expected. Donnie Garrett is right now 1 lap down, Bob Dixon 2 laps down. Of course, we documented his connection problems, but now they're going to start to encounter some of the other stragglers. Just up ahead is the 31 of Bernie Mobbs, and remember what we mentioned about Bernie Mobbs coming in tonight? 12th in the point standings, the cut line driver, and now he is -1 to the leader, Grant Wesley.
Yeah, he and probably Donnie are definitely going to be looking for the caution, just hoping that they're not the caution themselves.
Some of those other drivers that were down around the cut line coming into this race. Bob Seminara, he has cycled to 21st after the pit stop. Kelly Causey is right now in 11th, and he was 11th in points. So right now Causey appears to be in a good spot. Bob Seminara's position could be a little better, and I do not believe he is up in this lead pack either. He's currently back in a second group including Crivello, Miller, Harris, Melson, and Tate Dorsey. So I think he's another guy that would like to see a caution flag fly so that way they can bunch back up. And for those wondering, with the 31 of Bernie Mobs going a lap down, is there a driver that could take advantage and move up into the top 12 in the point standings? Right now, that would go to the 7-11 of John Godfrey, who is 5 points behind Bernie Mobs coming into this race. Right now, Godfrey is in the 11th position. And bear in mind, just because John Godfrey has a victory does not mean that previous race winners are not eligible for top 12 in the point standings. They get the bonus points, obviously, for the wins, but they can also be credited with a top 12 point standings finishing spot at the end of the regular season. So right now, it is a battle between John Godfrey and Bernie Mobs. Mobs needs to get back on the lead lap.
Which I feel like you'd probably be better off if you're able to get both the win and the top 12.
Right, I agree. Because it's another thing, too, that maybe people don't realize. You actually get bonus points towards where you finish in the top 12 in the standings. The higher you finish, the more bonus points you get. So, yeah, definitely, I think, would be important for even previous race winners to make sure they're up inside the top 12 in overall points.
Because I think we've seen it in this series and definitely in other series where, as we've said before, just 1 point can determine a season.
And especially, I think, this season more than previous seasons, because since the playoffs format was implemented, it's always been one season finale for these guys. One champion decided in one race. Now, with the fact we've got the 8 regular season races, that means that we've got 6 playoff races, 2 races in the first round, 2 races in the second round, and 2 races, postseason finales, if you will, for our final 4. So it puts just as much emphasis on consistency as it does on race victories for whoever the eventual final 4 will be to battle for the championship title. And how about this battle at the front? A couple of drivers that know something about winning championships. Josh Metallic and Grant Wesley in a little photo finish of their own there. It was Metallic at the line.
Oh, interesting. Bob Dixon
Oh, we got a
seems to be on
caution.
his...
Yellow flag's out. Just noticed the lights there off of turn 2.
Oh, something happened to the 111 car. Truck.
Ron Hagelin, who was 26th in the lead lap. Frozen field, so these drivers are carefully racing their way back to the caution, but not advancing their positions. Metallic's going to be the one to lead us under yellow and find that 111. Be off the track?
Yeah. You're gonna have to back your video up.
Skid marks are in the
I'm
tri-oval
looking.
there. Oh, there's the caution that a couple drivers needed. Donnie Garrett and Bernie Mobs were the first 2 drivers 1 lap down. So just like that, a must point in and a must win are going to be back on the same lap as the leaders. That was a godsend caution for them, as we'll go back and see what happened with Ron Hagelin making his return. We haven't seen him for a couple of weeks here in the Tally Challenge, and just nearing halfway, looks like his race is going to come to an end.
So, I'm taking a look at it, and in the middle of the tri-oval, he's in a line with 6 other trucks, and he just pulls down all of a sudden. His speedometer does some weird things. And then he just comes up in front of the 26,
No
taking both of
smoke.
them out.
Yeah, there was no smoke coming out of the back of that truck to indicate an engine failure.
Like, his speed drops down to like 160, and then it pops up to 170, goes back down, pops up again. I don't know what was going on there.
Truck darts to the left. Right there, pulls out of line. Thinking either hardware issue, maybe a game freeze. Not sure.
because he's pulling down. He's slow. The truck is slowing while he's out of line. Then he gets hit by the 26 because trying to figure out what the 111 was doing, and then they're both around and hard into the wall for the 111.
Here's inside the cockpit of Ron Hagelin. Let's take a listen and see if we can get any indication of what might have happened here. See that the speedometer was starting to decrease. Everything engine-wise looked like it was still good working order, so I would have to assume that, there's a couple of scenarios. Could be game freezing, could be game crashing, could be uh, steering wheel
Accidental,
not working anymore, throttle not working anymore.
accidental tab out.
Yep, could have been a lot of different things there. I feel it was more something along those lines than it was anything mechanical, and it puts us under the caution for the second time here tonight. Donnie Garrett staying out this extra lap here. Now, Donnie is eligible for the lucky dog. And, oh gosh, hold on a second. We're actually going to go back and see if we can find another replay, because I just noticed the other driver that was supposed to be lucky dog eligible, Bernie Mobbs, has had a mechanical problem and is out of the race. An engine piston, the telemetry's reading, and this must have happened under pacing. Try and find this. This has huge playoff implications, and I think it's right here going into turn 1. Crossed the line in 30th. He was a lap down, and right there. I don't know if he accidentally money shifts, but you can see the smoke billowing from underneath the leaf filter Dodge, and oh, that is such a tough break because, as I mentioned, he was going to get the free pass. He was going to be back on the lead lap, and just like that, his playoff hopes, figuratively and literally, go up in smoke.
No, he never shifted gears until after the motor exploded.
Wow. Had no prior damage that we know of, so I don't think it would have been anything of the truck overheating. Unfortunately, a lot of times in Air 2003, especially on the super speedway racing side, one driver is destined to get what's called the random blow-up. That might have been what happened right there with Bernie Mobbs, and what a tough break in so many ways, because he was the last driver coming into this race eligible to make it into the playoffs. He was in the 12th position in overall points. Fell a lap down with some issues getting onto pit road. I think he ended up having to serve a pass-through for a speeding penalty. Fell a lap down, and with this caution would have been back on the lead lap and is going to retire out of the race. And it looks like the 31st position. And his playoff hopes are done. Looks like another driver also out of the race, the 26 of Billy Elliser. So they're piling up like cordwood here, just past the halfway point. Looks like Bob Dixon, by virtue, is going to, along with Donnie Garrett, be a lucky dog driver.
Well, Elliser was caught up in both the first wreck and this last wreck with the
Good call.
111 of.
Yeah, so it might have been a second claim and a park on the 26. Well, there you see the 143 and the 77. They're going to go around, get their laps back. Keith Hughes, the two-time winner, is the one that's going to be leading us back to green. We're going to be bringing you back for this restart in just a moment, but let's take a quick FRN race break and get a word from our race sponsor, Ultimate Garage Doors. The following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flatout Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia Exposy flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, you want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. Getting ready to go back green for our second restart of the night. Keith Hughes and Josh Metallic going to be the ones to lead us back to green. It's Grant Wesley, Richard Martin, Brian Schilling, the top five. Jeremy Jeffries, Bobby Farrell, Mark Paglia, JT Mayhew, and Joe DeSpirito are going to be the top 10. Congratulations to both Brian Schilling and Joe DeSpirito. They have now locked themselves into the playoffs via points, with the number of drivers that we now have back in the garage area, including David Cannon, Billy Elliser, Bernie Mobbs, and Ron Hagelin. Hearing that there are some gears potentially missing on the 43 of Richard Martin, so we'll be keeping an eye on that if we have some late race restarts here. So one more pit stop to go here, Matt. Do they make it under green? Do they make it under caution? This track in particular, especially in the first two races we had here this season, has had the uncanny nature of interesting timing with when those final cautions are thrown.
Yeah, just ask Doug Ulick.
Yeah, exactly. Ulick and who was the other driver that ended up having the weird timing of the yellow? I think it was it Metallic? Yeah, I think it was. I think it was Josh, yeah. Topside there working, but I'm a little nervous about that 4. Brian Schilling, little side to side there. I'm nervous up here. Metallic might not be all that nervous. It's weird, right? Like we've been in cars before in super speedways. That shimmy, you're aware of it, but unless it's like super obvious and not something like little like that, you still actually have the bravery to go up there and bump draft that car. You just have to be aware that it's not in an area where you might end up getting that dreaded bumper grab. I mean, up here, it looks like it's a big issue. Maybe to the folks at home, looks like a big issue. But when you're down there in the cockpit of one of these trucks, it's not as big of an issue as it might seem.
Yeah, it's like say if it's just a tiny little bit, you can relatively tell that the truck's in the right hitbox. But it's when it moves sideways or disappears for even tenth of a second, then you're like, oh, where's that truck?
Well, folks, when we started this race, the caution came out immediately after we went green. One of the drivers involved in the wreck was the 38 of Rodney Sullins. Take a look at where he is now, leading that outside line 3 wide for the lead.
Yeah, that truck is definitely fine.
And trying to put it in the wind is, gosh, Robbie Nisus there in the 54. Not once but twice pounded the outside wall, once off of turn 4 and then after leaving the tri-oval. Gonna hurt that outside line there quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm just noticing this man is, I don't know if it's his internet or something, but he is wiggling all over the track.
Very unsteady. I also saw another truck that was side to side warping. I think it might have still been the 4, but I thought I saw another truck that might have been side to siding there. Yes, the 17. Chuck McClure doing a little bit of a wiggle there. Second truck on that outside line. So as we stack them up 3 wide, about 7 rows deep, gotta be aware of that because it's something that's certainly out of your control, and if it ends up exacerbating a lot worse than what we've currently seen, it's gonna take a lot of trucks with it.
Oh, I guarantee you, we are not done wrecking. There's no way they make 26 laps
Take a look
and
at
not have at least one more.
some of the names that are starting to make their way up to the front. I just noticed the 10 of Terry Bombard. He is 4th on that inside line. Terry comes into this race in a must-win situation. He is, if I can do quick math in my head, 34 points behind 20th in the point stands. He mathematically could win and point his way into the top 20. And I also noticed the Glenn Harris machine back there. He was 21st in points coming into this race. He could win and point his way into the playoffs via top 20 in the standings. He is 7th right now, last time crossing.
Oh, I wonder what happened to the middle line, because all of a sudden, it and the outside line,
Oh,
especially
Nefker gets spun off the nose of, I think that was Jeremy Jeffries. No caution though. It happened below the line, and now I think the caution will wave. It does. The caution waves because the 088 came back up the track in front of Bob Dixon, so the yellow flag flies for the 3rd time here tonight.
ooh,
And look at where the caution falls. Completion of 41, coming to 25 to go, putting us about 2.5, 3 laps shy of the maximum these drivers can go on a tank of fuel. We saw the tail end of that incident. Go back and get a full replay of it. Tim Knopfsker, he got very lucky. We've seen a lot of times where, well, I say that and the truck actually flipped over. But a lot of times we have where solo car incidents happen off of turn number 2, and no caution comes out, and usually they have to hope for another incident to be able to get back in the lead lap. The fact that his truck migrated back up onto the racing surface in turn 3 with oncoming traffic helped for that yellow to fly. Here's a look at it. Wow. Blowover, got up on the front splitter, then down on 2 wheels, and did come to rest. You want to know what the best part about that blowover was there? He did not make any contact with the roof or really the front end. That is, if there's such a thing, that was a harmless blowover. I think that truck's going to be just fine.
well, but even with the splitter going into the ground, that's the only thing I see that concerns me a little bit.
I think he's going to be good.
And just taking a look at the pause of that, it just looks like 3 guys trying to go for a spot.
Take a look at it from the aerial view.
Or Jeffries was trying to side draft and it just didn't work.
Yeah, you can see the slight contact into the hitbox there. Sometimes, too, you get so into a zone of following the line of the truck in front of you that you don't make yourself as aware of just how much space you have either to your left or your right. And that might have been the case there. I believe Jeremy Jeffries was following in the tire tracks of Dave Melson and might have been moving up when Dave Melson was moving up to be able to get the draft. And at the same time, Knopfsker was following behind. I think it was McClure, and they may have been moving down. And just made that slight little bit of contact. I mean, in the iRacing world, we would have called it gap whack because it kind of looked like there shouldn't have been contact, but obviously there was.
It's just typical hard racing here at Burnt Screwdrivers.
Now it's a question of who ends up claiming that incident. For Jeremy Jeffries, of course, a former winner, he is in good shape to advance into the playoffs, but could hurt him in terms of losing track position if indeed the incident is deemed as his responsibility. Since he came into this race in the ninth position in points, he doesn't want to drop down outside of the top 12 in the point stands and not get those valuable bonus points for being up inside the top 12 seeding. As we got Sheck and Andrew Miller and a couple of others coming down pit lane here a couple of laps after the caution flew. So I think we're starting to get the mental games here for fuel strategy. Johnny Garrett, Martin, Bob Seminara in the 712. I believe there was only one driver. Yeah, Bob Dixon was the only car or truck one lap down, or more than one lap down. I think he was 2 down. And he's going to get the lucky dog. What do you think? We got another caution on the horizon here in the 143 after his connection problems. Maybe gets back on the lead lap before all is said and done.
I have a very strong feeling that there's gonna be at least one more.
I think Bob Dixon really would like those strong feelings.
As long as he's not in it.
As long as he's not the caution. Yes, exactly.
Then if he's in it, he's gonna be cursing me.
Robbie Nice is going to stay out. He's going to lead a lap, and we'll probably see him dive to pit lane next time. And Grant Wesley should inherit the lead back. Grant has led 8 laps so far here tonight. Mark Paglia has led the most, 10 laps in total. 6 laps led by Chuck McClure. Also 6 laps led by Keith Hughes. 5 laps have been led by Josh Metallic. 2 laps led apiece for Dave Melson and Brian Schilling. And then 1 turn out in front for Robbie Nisus, as well as Jason Sheck, Richard Martin, and Andrew Miller. So the lights should go out atop the pace car this next time by. And we should go back green with 22 laps to go. About 1 lap further than what projected these drivers can go in a tank of fuel. And look at the drivers that have ducked onto pit lane to top off just a little bit more. Schilling, Paglia, Metallic, Jeffries, Hewlick. Actually, might be easier to name the drivers that didn't top off because it was quite a menagerie of drivers that came down pit lane here at the 1 to green.
Yeah, definitely more than I would have expected. But hey, that could be the difference, because just like how Hewlett pulled it off, come off pit road, be on an alternate strategy, and come off pit road, and there's the caution before you get to the start finish line.
Looks like 14 drivers did not come down pit lane. So these are drivers that are of the assumption, much like you, Matt, that we have not seen our last yellow flag of the evening, and maybe could save enough under the next caution period's pace laps to make it the rest of the way, or they would then come to pit road and top off the fuel tank under that yellow. For those drivers that came to pit road here, though, the question is, have they made their final pit stop of the night? We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out, but it'll be Grant Wesley, the leader. Bobby Farrell's done a great job up inside the top 5 almost the entirety of the night, trying to get that overall points lead championship for the regular season. He's second. Terry Bombard's third, Joe DeSpirito in fourth, and Chuck McClure is in the 5th position. JT Mayhew in 6th, Rodney Sull in 7th, Dave Melson's 8th, Keith Hughes in 9th, and Kelly Causey currently completes the top 10. like Tate Dorsey, Cy Jones, Jeff Crivello, Tom Dixon, and Jeremy Jeffries. That's going to be the top 15 as we get ready to go back green flag racing. Bob Dixon actually was the lucky dog under this caution and was only 1 lap down at the time, so he is now back on the lead lap. All 29 drivers running on the lead lap as Grant Wesley, last week's winner, trying to join Keith Hughes as the only multi-time winners here during the regular season for season 58. Brings us down here through the tri-oval, waiting on that flagman to get us back underway for what's going to be 21 laps to go. Grant Wesley in that inside line. Going to get the momentum the shorter way around the racetrack. Moves up. To pick up the 92 of Bobby Farrell in that middle groove. Farrell had a big push from Joe DeSpirito and had to check up to avoid running over Grant Wesley going into turn 3. I think definitely for Grant Wesley, it has to be the strategy that there's going to be another caution coming out, because if he spends a majority of this run out in front, consuming all of that fuel, I don't see, even with whatever he might have been able to save under that caution period, I don't see any conceivable way that he would be able to make it the rest of the way on what he's got in the tank.
How many laps did you say these trucks can usually go on
Well,
fuel?
max is usually 21. Very rarely do we see drivers even stretch it that far. It's usually 19 to 20, but 21 is possible.
But yeah, like you said, with being out front all the wind is directly on his truck. He doesn't have anybody that he can use to save that fuel. So yeah, it's gonna be close.
And he's in that middle line right there too, right? I mean, granted, it's the faster line at this point in time, but it is a longer way around the racetrack than being right down there against that yellow line. So you're still, even though it might be minuscule each lap, you still are consuming more fuel, taking the longer way. I think he heard me. Went down to the bottom. Bobby Farrell now going to get a huge push ahead from the 24 of Joe DeSpirito, the multi-time champion DeSpirito. Locked into the playoffs now via points. Also has a win this year to fall back on. More bonus points for him.
With these trucks, it really seems like you can push 3 trucks, but maybe if you get that 4th one, then you might get the bumper grab.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up seeing in the early going how it appears that the suck-up is really strong here at this racetrack. And then to your point, you get more than 3 trucks all chain bumping. That's usually what leads to the uneven bumps that eventually lead to trucks spinning and lead to the big wrecks that we've seen here in the past. So, again, not really a whole lot of shoving from the 4th truck to the 3rd truck. Rodney Sullins on the inside, he gave distance to Chuck McClure, and Dave Nelson in the middle line gave distance to JT Mayhew, while in both those lanes, the top 3 trucks in the respective inside and outside, they had the bumpers locked.
These trucks are all moving around. Just keeping an eye out on this whole field.
That last time by, it was Bobby Farrell who led the lap. That was his first lap led of the night. But with a good push from Terry Bombard, Grant Wesley is going to move up in front of him. Wesley will take the lead back down the back straightaway. We've seen here this season drivers pick up their first career wins in the Tally Challenge. Doug Kulik, the first time we were here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, and then the following week, Keith Hughes picked up his first career win at Talladega. He would go on to follow it up with a second victory. John Godfrey ended up picking up his second career win in the season opener this season, and I'm looking at maybe a Bobby Farrell who has not yet found victory lane in this series, might be able to get his first career win here tonight. He's been very strong. And also noticing the 46 of Tate Dorsey, that silver truck on the inside line there with his good buddy Keith Hughes. He might be able to get up here and mix things up in the closing stages.
And that is one reason I like super speedway racing, because a truck that may not ever have a chance on a normal track has just as much chance as any other truck on a super speedway.
Go to Spirito. Saw him with a little move to the inside down the back straightaway, picking up Terry Bombard. Let's see if that helps him get to the front. Alongside, halfway alongside of Grant Wesley going into turn number 1. Gonna edge ahead here from the entry to the center, but then, as we see so many times, the drive off, the momentum, straightaway speed goes to the outside line. And how about third lane? Dave Melson, the Wonderbread 038 that he's got with him. That's Jeremy Jeffries in the 1, and John Godfrey in the 711.
Can't count out those guys either.
3 wide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I thought it was 7. It's 6 rows deep. Barreto might be clear on Wesley. Does he stay to the bottom if he gets clear, or does he jump up to the middle line? That third line's coming again. Good momentum there from the start-finish line into turn 1. They've got Jeff Crivello up there with him, Doug Hewlick, Andrew Miller, Jason Scheck, Richard Martin. A lot of the stragglers towards the back of the pack have all migrated their way up to that third line.
Trying to see if they can get something to work, because clearly staying in the middle to bottom lane ain't working, so you gotta mix it up.
Terry Bombard now going to move up to that middle line with Grant Wesley. You got to think a lot of drivers coming into tonight that were in must-win scenarios, they had to have dialed up some of their friends that were already locked into the playoffs, whether it be with wins or whether it be pointing into the top 12 saying, hey, I am in a must-win situation. You're already locked in. Please, can I ask for your assistance to try and get that last-ditch effort into a playoff spot? You see here, the 88 nose to tail with the 10. Did they strike a deal potentially to try to get Terry Bombard into the playoffs in the final regular season race?
They very well might have, but then again, Talladega, your friends are where you find them, whether it be guys you've contacted or teammates or heck, even a guy you might not like most of the time.
And look at that third line there as well. Dave Melson, he's got a driver behind him that's already locked into the playoffs, Jeremy Jeffries. The ironic thing about it is Terry Bombard, Dave Melson, last 2 drivers in points that mathematically were eligible to make it into the postseason via a victory. These guys are going for the ultimate shot clock buzzer.
And will they pick the perfect series to do it then?
Well, this throws a little bit of an interesting twist on it. I'm being told that it sounds like nobody is able to make it the rest of the way on what they've got for fuel. We're going to have at least one more pit stop before this thing comes to a close.
Well, that shows my understanding of fuel saving.
Well, I thought that these guys might be borderline able to make it. Some of these guys would have had to have gone 22 laps, but you know, you're back there in the middle of the pack, rear of the field, throwing the clutch, going into the entry of the corner, stay in the draft, maybe could save half a lap. Honestly, you could really just save about 3/4 of a lap, right? Run out of fuel coming out of turn 4, hope that you got enough speed to get you down through the triangle to the start-finish line, coast across the line. I mean, we've ended up seeing stuff like that in the past. And again, too, there's also the possibility that you may not be running to the completion of lap 66 under green flag conditions. We could end up having the caution come out around lap 63, 64, and can you save enough coast under pacing to bring it around to the checkered flag? So I don't know. I'm hearing that nobody really can make it, but there could be that one driver that tries to roll the dice and see if they can pick up a victory here on fuel strategy, maybe just on fumes.
See one guy attempting to go 60 miles an hour, just coast across that line. Yeah, you really never know. Like say, super speedway racing. If you plan at all, something's gonna go wrong.
Well,
Better off just winging it.
you notice our top now 6 or 7, they've all migrated their way down to the bottom. That says to me that none of them feel they can make it the rest of the way. They're going to go down to that yellow line and paint it, so that way when they eventually have to make that pit stop, they'll have that ease of access onto pit lane. And we've already seen drivers have issues with pit road here tonight. We've seen it during the course of the season. I mean, Donnie Garrett ended up pitting from the lead, locked up the front tires, and slid outside of pit road. Subsequently got a speeding penalty. He's been able to get back in the lead laps. As a matter of fact, I think he's in 8th place right now, so good comeback for him. But this is the money stop. There is a potential playoff spot on the line. This is where you cannot afford to make a mistake, and it is 10 times harder to make a pit stop at a super speedway under green flag conditions than it is under a caution period.
Yeah, these guys have mastered the art of hot pitting at Talladega, but burnt screwdrivers has seemed this year to be a whole different animal.
Yeah, that's a
No
good point.
guarantee.
Yeah, we've talked with drivers in the past about if there is a difference in feeling of getting onto pit road here as opposed to Talladega, where they've been at so many times in the past. I mean, it prior to this season was the track they went to week after week, season after season, and they said, yeah, there is a slight difference getting onto this pit road. So they've had to go through a period of adjustment, and for a good dozen drivers, it may be the pit stop of their life here as to whether they're going to be advancing the battle for the championship or whether they are not. If you're just joining us here, we got one more pit stop between now and the conclusion of the race. A couple of things have happened in regards to the playoffs. Looks like Bernie Mobbs will not be partaking in the championship battle here this season. He ended up having a mechanical problem after the field had taken the caution while getting ready to pace. We're being told that it was an engine piston. Because of him retiring in the 31st position and he came in the cut line driver, he will not be advancing into the playoffs. We also know a couple of drivers that have pointed their way into the playoffs, as we've got some pitters here, a trio, Bob Dixon, Tom Dixon, and Andrew Miller. But we can confirm at this point in time that Bobby Farrell, Grant Wesley, Josh Metallic, Brian Schilling, Joe DeSpirito, and Keith Hughes, they are locked into the playoffs regardless of what happens in the final 6 laps of this race.
And even those guys are on the edge of their seats.
Had that trio come to pit road, the question is just how much further can everybody else go? This time by, they're going to hit 5 laps remaining. I wasn't given a number of how short these guys are on fuel. I was just told that they're short. So it's a bit of a wait and see up here for us in the commentators booth of when these drivers have the hands out the window, the radios start lighting up, and the pit crews start getting up on the wall in preparation for the final pit stop of the night.
I feel like at least the pit crews have to be on the wall already if any of these guys are coming at all.
Not seeing anything indicating at least a bunch of drivers coming to pit road yet. The out of turn 4. Oh, Cy Jones going to come to pit lane, but he's going to come all by his lonesome, it looks like. At least up here at the front.
I feel like he's going for this strategy of pulling the Doug Hewlick and just come off pit road and have to go that last few hundred feet.
There's a couple of drivers I just noticed there towards the back. Tim Knofsker, Richard Martin, they're a long ways back there. Jason Scheck, I wonder if maybe they're saving. And I wonder if they're saving hard.
Well, at least I'm not sure about the other guys, but at least on the Richard Martin, didn't you say thought you had reports of him having a gearing issue?
He had a
So
gearing issue, but I don't see how that would have affected him here. As here we go. Oh no! Dave Melson and Bobby Farrell made
oh,
contact.
there's a wreck.
Oh, they're
Oh, big
wrecking
wreck,
all
big
over
wreck.
the place. Wesley and Hughes. Nofsker flew through the infield grass. Is the caution out? No. Now it
Oh
is.
my.
Now the caution's out. As they're wrecked in the trioval. Yellow flag's out. Who's the leader? Who stayed out? Schilling stayed out. And he was the
Yeah,
first one back to the line. Oh boy.
I had a feeling something was gonna happen.
Caution is out. Again, we didn't know how far these drivers were short on fuel. With that big group coming to pit lane, they came to pit road at 3 to go. Do any of these guys that stayed out, do they try to coast it around, or are they going to have to come to pit lane? Bulick's saving hard on the apron. Paglia was down in the apron. Well, Brian Schilling, 1 season ago, won the regular season finale. He's looking to do it for the second straight season if he can make it on fuel. I'm hearing there's a lot of drivers that are running out of fuel. 92, Bobby Farrell has run out of fuel. Paglia looks like he's not coming to pit road. They got 2 to go here at the line. They got to make over 5 miles with maybe a quarter of a mile in the tank.
There, you literally can't.
This is crazy. Jason Scheck out of the race. Terry Bombard out of the race. Bombard was in a must-win situation, as was the 44. Keeping an eye on telemetry, seeing who else can make it. We know that. Here's the thing, too. Okay, the timing of the caution. If the caution came out before drivers got to their pit stalls, they would not be able to take service. It would hold them and it would EOL them. So drivers that came to pit road, if they had not already gotten into their stalls, they would have had to pass through pit road.
Wait, even if like they were on pit road?
Even if they were on pit road. I'm
Okay,
noticing
that's
the 10th place driver is Tim Nofsker. Didn't Nofsker go flying down pit road? Did he miss the commitment cone and fly through the grass area or something, and that's why he didn't get penalized? I'm not seeing anything indicating that he got a penalty.
yeah. There was some chaos, and he definitely went flying. I'm don't know if he missed that commit cone or not, but it was close.
We will go back. We will look at a replay of all that happened there coming to pit lane. It transferred onto the front straightaway into the trioval, but we are going to stay here until the checkered flag is received because I'm hearing it is super, super close for every single one of these drivers that had stayed out and received this yellow flag. I believe we would have to go back to Richard Martin in the 11th position of the drivers that had not come to pit road. Gotta be the
Maybe
quietest top 10 I've ever heard in my life.
just just trying to stretch it as 5 miles on what, a quarter of a tank of gas,
There is
or
the white flag over the hood of Brian Schilling. Another 2.66 miles to go to try and pick up his first win on the season and advance his way not only via race win, but also top 12 in the point standings. He was already locked in via points with where he was positioned in an attempt for back back-to-back championships here in the RTG Talladega Challenge. Nobody through that corner went down to the apron. Got a couple of trucks going down towards the yellow line there. Doug Hewlick in the 23, Pagli in the 28. I'm wondering if that's an indication where they feel they could run out, so they're trying to get out of the way in case they do.
Hewlick's come back up on the track. He's close, but he's not down there yet. Had that moment, but
Donnie Garrett's going to be an interesting one. Came into this race mathematically eligible of pointing his way into the playoffs. Was 29 points behind the cut line, and we know that Bernie Mobbs did not finish well in this race. Bob Seminara looks like he is in 6th, so he would point his way in. 88 Grant Wesley, I'm being told, out of fuel. Espirito in the 24 out of fuel. I'm hearing this over the radio. These drivers running out of fuel. Those were a couple of drivers that came to pit lane, couldn't take on service, had to pass through pit road because the caution came out. If the start-finish line was Daytona, we'd be coming to it now. You got another 200, 300 feet that you have to traverse before you get back to the checkered flag here for Brian Schilling. But it looks like that car, that truck might have enough to get back here to the line. What a topsy-turvy race this was. He's still under power, and he's going to coast across to get the checkers. No fuel for burnouts, I'll bet, but Brian Schilling in back-to-back seasons wins the regular season finale, and he will look to make it back-to-back seasons to win a championship.
I think he just ran out. I'm not hearing any sound
there.
going into one.
Yep. He throttled up a little bit there in turn. Well, nope, he's throttled up again.
Oh, wait.
Donnie Garrett gets 2nd. Jeremy Jeffries brings it home in 3rd.
Congratulatory bumps are going kind of crazy right now.
Wow, that was an interesting combo there. The 17, the 43 straightened him out. Does he even have enough to come around and?
No, he just.
No, he threw in the clutch. He's still going. Gonna try and make it around here, and I don't think he'll have enough for burnouts, but he can at least salute the crowd here at Current Screwdrivers Raceway. Oh, that. I think he's in 4th gear. Yeah, he's out. He's out now.
There it is.
He's gonna have enough to come around to the start-finish line.
Well, considering the sponsor that he has, I'm not surprised.
Once again, where did he come from?
The closer strikes again.
Brian Schilling. Oh, well, wait a minute. Oh, we did have enough for burnouts. Look at that.
He just shut it down all the way around the trail just to make sure he had enough.
We'll be talking with Brian Schilling in victory lane. Donnie Garrett and Jeremy Jeffries, the rest of the podium. We'll look at the finishing results in just a moment, but let's go back and let's take a look at what brought out this caution to end the race under yellow. I don't know exactly what the reactions were when the announcement was made that Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway was going to be alternated between Talladega during this entire season. I'll tell you what, this track, with its debut on the schedule, it has brought about some of the, maybe the craziest finishes, whether it be the timing of yellows, whether it be the battles back to the line for the checkered flag, or in this case, who has the fumes to cross the start-finish line. We're going to go back to the first bit of contact that I saw, which I believe was with Bobby Farrell, and I think the other truck might have been the 38 of 038 of Dave Melson.
Yes, it was. Melson just trying to get under the dotted yellow line just misjudged between Farrell and I think that's the 7-Eleven that he might have just missed benefit between.
Think you're right. Yep, I think that was Godfrey. Big hit there for both Melson and Jason Sheck, and right here at this point was when the caution came out. Saw a number of drivers, the wherewithal, realizing the caution was going to fly, they turned back up the racetrack. Make sure they didn't come down pit road. Take
And
another
I think
look at
that's
it
where
here.
and I think that's where we get the second incident come from.
Yeah, Tim Knopfsker right there, right side of your screen. He was all sorts of slideways, and I think he hits the cone. But he did not have all four tires to the left of
Yeah,
it, so that's why I don't think he ended up getting a penalty.
yeah, when he hits it, he's got 2 tires in the grass, 2 tires on the road.
And then the secondary incident you're talking about, I think it's Grant Wesley was a part of it.
He was.
He gets into, oh, actually, he gets got by Terry Bombard, who locks up the brakes. JT Mayhew loops it around. And you see the caution's out, and I don't think, and nobody had gotten into their stall yet when the caution flew. And you see all these guys, Hughes, Despirito, McClure, they could not pit, or they would have taken a penalty. They had to pass through pit road, and subsequently, as we documented, a number of drivers ended up running out of fuel, including the 88, the 24, the 92.
Yeah, if caution came out right where we think it did, nobody had hit even the commitment cone. And like say you say, if they can't even pull into their pit boxes yet, and they're not even on pit road yet when the caution came out.
Here is a look at the finishing results after everything that transpired there. From that attempt at a green flag pit stop to trying to make it across the line on fumes. Schilling, Garrett, Jeffries, Doug Hewlick. Boy, his numbers here at First Screwdrivers Raceway have been really, really good. Had that victory earlier on in the season, gets a 4th place run here tonight. He came into this race in 15th in the standings. He was 14 points, no, correction, 26 points. 26 points behind 12th in the standings. I don't know if he's going to move up into the top 12 in points or he'll have to fall back on that victory, but nonetheless, he's going to be in the playoffs. Josh Metallic, who finished top 3 last week, at top 5 here this week. He was obviously already locked in when he was 3rd in overall points coming into tonight. Bob Seminara needed a good points day. He got it. He's locked into the playoffs via top 12 in points. Mark Paglia, he was in a must-win situation, but still a great run for him in 7th. Glenn Harris was also in a must-win, but he's going to get a good run in 8th. How about Robbie Nices? I think that might be Nices, his best finish of the season in 9th. And Tim Knopfsker, who had the, he'll probably get an angry tweet from the commitment cone, but he ends up bringing it home in the 10th position. Richard Martin, Keith Hughes, Joe Despirito, Tate Dorsey, John Godfrey. That's the top 15. I believe Godfrey is going to be the one to displace Bernie Mobbs from the top 12. Kelly Causey is going to be a question mark there as well, 21st. And he was 11th in points, only 6 points ahead of the cut line. Rodney Sullins, I think he had enough breathing space. 22nd, he, I think, is going to point his way into the playoffs. Grant Wesley, already in via a win. Bobby Farrell, don't think Bobby Farrell, yeah, he's with running out of fuel. He's not going to be the regular season champion. I think that distinction, ooh, it's going to be close between Brian Schilling and Josh Metallic, I think. I think Metallic might get it. Oh, we'll wait for official scoring on that. And how about this? Tim Knopfsker and Chuck McClure, 2 drivers who are amazing super speedway racers. Knopfsker's had multi-win seasons. Chuck McClure is a former champion. If I am calculating this right, Two big names are not going to be in this season's playoffs.
That just shows the chaos that can be multiple speedway races.
Here's a
You
look at the
you
rest
think
of the. Oh, go ahead.
you get so used to racing one track, and then you think you've got everything figured out, and then they throw in another one.
Show you the drivers that finished out of the race. Biggest heartbreak in this one has to be Bernie Mobbs. Missed the first two cautions of the evening. Was slowing down for pacing, and the engine went south. He came into this race the cut line driver, 12th in the point standings. Needed to preserve that or increase his position in the points to advance into the playoffs. And the 31 finishing 31st takes him out of championship contention. Back in the garage area with a number of others: Sheck, Bombard, Mayhew, Elliser, Ron Hagel, and David Cannon, and Bob Sire. We had four cautions during the course of this race, the fourth one ending the race under yellow. I am being told that we, at least at this point, this is a possibility, may not have the official word of all of who is in the playoffs here tonight. You may have to wait until next week and tune in to the first playoff race at Talladega. Apparently, the scoring system for calculating the points having a slight issue. Going to have to manually calculate up those points, but it's technology. Sometimes it works. It's great when it works, and sometimes it doesn't work. But in case we do have the opportunity to be able to give you the playoffs heading into next week, we will certainly do that after we have our post-race interviews, which we are going to begin right now. Let's see if we can dial up our top three finishers who were able to make it on fumes. Let's find out just how close it was as we kick things off with now playoff contender, driver of the number one, Jeremy Jeffries. Hey, Jeremy, Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I do.
Well, we were hearing it prior to the caution flying. You guys were super close making it on fuel. You were one of the drivers that elected not to come to pit lane with that group. So were you in the camp of running it out until it ended up not having a drop left, or were you going to be planning on coming down the following lap?
I was gonna run it out until I had to pit. We topped off that last caution. I know Schilling and I'm guessing probably Donnie and some guys around there, but I know for sure Schilling did because we were talking about it. And just in case it happened to end under yellow, we'd have that extra little bit to get there.
Obviously, coming into this race, you were already locked in via your victory previously this season. So, in terms of the fuel strategy that we ended up seeing playing out in this final run, I mean, how aggressive were you going to be on that in the fact of us having possibly this thing go green to the end? I mean, Matt brought up the possibility of maybe somebody saving running out of fuel out of turn four and trying to coast it at 60 miles per hour or so back to the start finish line. Was that anything that you possibly considered there?
Nah, I wasn't close enough to be able to do that, but I definitely was gonna the pit at the last second and hope for what happened. When I got my win earlier this season, it was a little pit strategy call there at the end that got me that, and I was hoping maybe I could still win again.
Well, we talk about for drivers, even if they're already locked into the playoffs, that final regular season race, they want to have that good momentum, that good mojo going into the playoff battle. Top three finish here tonight. How important is that? Because we talk about last season, there were about four championships you locked up. This one's always eluded you. So, how important was it to make sure that you've got this good momentum going into that postseason?
Oh, it means a lot getting some momentum. I could definitely use it. Like you said, I've got two bracket championships, but I can't seem to get the overall. And I take any extra bit of momentum I can get heading into the chase.
Well, you guys have had a lot of curveballs thrown at you here this season. You had the random qualifying. You've had this new racetrack added into the schedule. And of course, the playoffs have gotten a little bit of an adjustment as well. So we look forward to seeing what you're able to do when you guys take the green flag at Talladega next week. Before we let you go and get your playoff strategies in order, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Oh, well, thank you to RTG, Bones and Prime, the owners, all the admins, all the drivers, everybody that shows up, makes it such a fun place to race. I really enjoy it. FRN, thanks for broadcasting. Everybody that's came up there in the booth this season made them enjoyable to watch, and I just imagine they're going to be even better the next 6 races, uh, covering the chase. XFM teammates, family and friends, everybody out there in YouTube land that's watching. Uh, See you guys next week.
We're certainly looking forward to it. That's Jeremy Jeffries, third place here tonight. He's going to be one of your playoff contenders heading into next week. Best of luck. Great run here tonight.
Thank you.
And let's see if we can dial up the driver that brings it home in the second position. And that is the driver, the number 77, Donnie Garrett. Donnie, Matt, and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
I got you guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, we were crunching the numbers before the green flag flew. You talked about a couple of weeks ago feeling that this was going to be a must-win situation. We had it where you could point your way in. You bring it home in the second position, though. A crazy finish to this one where it came down to who had the fumes to get across the start-finish line. I mean, man, how close really was it for the 77 truck?
I was good. I topped off. I kept topping off there towards that end of that last caution, and I was like a lap and a half short. So I knew if the caution come out, I'd be good. But I just jumped on that bottom line and tried to save as much fuel as I could, and I was starting to eat into it a little bit. And then everybody yelled they were going to pit coming off of four. Somebody just come to a dead stop in front of me, and I had to literally slam on the brakes and turn the car right to keep from hitting them. Or I think I'd have had something for Brian. I think I could have got by him because I mean I had the momentum. But with having to stop like that, just killed my momentum. But it is what it is, man. I think it was 14th, a little short this time. But hey, you know what? We'll get him next time, and been a great season.
Well, one thing we have to highlight too is during that first round of green flag pit stops, you came in from the lead, locked up the tires, and slid out into the infield grass. Ended up falling a lap down and made a comeback to finish in second place here tonight. So we end up seeing it a lot of times where drivers have the hardships early and they're able to mount those comebacks. So I mean, how important was it for you to be able to get that caution, get that lucky dog, and then be able to get back into contention? Because I have to think that at least the point in time when you were having to serve that penalty, you were thinking, man, this is a higher mountain to climb now than it was when I initially took the green.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Basically, I'm 2 mountains over instead of one. Yeah, I just didn't panic, and coming in there, it looked like I was going under Mark, and he cut down. I had to literally hit the brakes, or I would have run over him. I don't know, but it slid me out onto the track, and I just try to regroup, get back on the pit road, get a pit stop done, try to stay on the lead lap as best as I could, and come out and got caught with the leaders, luckily, and was able to get up past them. And then I saw where the shit, I forget his name, Bernie. He blew up, and then I was like, okay, that's who I was chasing. And I said he's going to finish 32nd because I was watching it, and I'm like, that's where about I need to be up in the top 2 or 3, and that's going to put me right up there with him. And I guess the way it come out, I ended up tying with him, so I was right on the points there. I knew I'd be right there with him. Um, but disappointed, man. It just I had that race taken away from me. I still absolutely disagree with that. But and then of course I took a week's vacation, and I'm going to talk to the wife about that and just tell her, hey, we got to take these vacations on the off weeks. We can't be doing that during racing season.
Well, obviously, the hardships of not making it into the playoffs. And I know that you want to, in these final 6 races, put that 77 in victory lane as many times as you possibly can. I mean, how difficult is it going to be making the transition of a number of the guys that you're going to be battling around, seeing them now as playoff contenders rather than as competition for playoff spots here down the home stretch?
Well, now you start making friends. You say, okay, I'm gonna you find out who you're racing with, and like, hey, hey, I'll help you tonight, but you remember this, because we don't forget. And I've had guys that reminded me, hey, a couple seasons ago I pushed you, and then I remember you pushing me, and So you'll be looking for friends. You'll be looking for guys you're gonna reach out to. Maybe you don't normally race around, and try to help them maybe, and got to take a look and see who all's up there, and be looking for some, all my teammates that I've been helping, of course, the Florida gang, and trying to kind of help those guys, and I'm sure that if they were in the same position, they'd be helping me. So, um, now I'm become everybody's best friend.
Well, Donnie, obviously, again, the hardship of not advancing to the playoffs, but a great run for you here tonight. A good comeback after the early issues. Second place here in the regular season finale, so congratulations on that. Before we let you go, though, we'll give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Well, I got as always thank RTG, man, greatest place in the world to race. The ownership here is first class, and I mean they when they make decisions, they take a lot of time. These reviews that the guys do, Tim and Wiley and Josh, I mean they spend a lot of time. I mean sometimes they'll spend an hour on one call, and a lot of those are me. so I've heard about them, but you got to give your hat off to those guys, man. They put the time in to try to make sure that those calls are right. And then, hey, if you disagree, man, we've got a replay committee set up here to they don't take it personal. We can take a shot at saying, hey, I disagree with that, and it goes to the replay committee. So there's a system, and I think that's why the success is so good here, because there's systems in place that run this like a business. And it's a great place to race, fair place to race. There's no favoritism given, and it's some of the best competition I've ever raced with in all the years I've been racing. And look forward to going after these 6 races and seeing if we can get the old Astroglide truck up into victory lane and maybe get back up here and talk to you guys a little bit more.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to it. That's Donnie Garrett. He brings it home second place here tonight at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations on the great run there, Donnie. And again, we look forward to seeing what you're able to do down this home stretch.
You got it, buddy. Y'all have a good evening, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Donnie Garrett, second place finisher here tonight.
Woo!
And let's see if we can go down to victory lane and get a hold of his first victory of the season, tonight's race winner, Brian Schilling. Brian, Matt, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, what's going on, guys?
I'll tell you what, you've got a flair for the dramatic, my friend. We go back one season, you ended up already being locked in via points, but you go to victory lane in the regular season finale. And oh yeah, by the way, about 5 weeks down the road, you end up winning the championship. Here we are in season 58. You were already locked in on points, and on fumes, you cross the start-finish line to pick up the victory here in the regular season finale. Are we seeing a carbon copy of back-to-back seasons here or something?
It would be nice for sure, after last week's events, I was a little dejected, and I'm like, I'm just gonna ride around today and just decide to make some aggressive pit strategy moves, and it put me in the right spot.
Definitely aggressive pit strategy moves. We knew that the timing of the caution, a lot of drivers are going to be really close on fuel. From what we're hearing, the general consensus was drivers were about a lap and a half to 2 laps short. Where were you situated? Because we saw that you had enough to be able to not only take the checkered flag, but then also come around and be able to do a couple of burnouts. Granted, I'm sure some hardcore clutching came into play, but was there a scenario where this 4 could make it to the checkered flag if we had remained green?
No, there's no way. I was just under a lap and a half short of making it. So if it would have been clicking with like 1, I could have probably saved it. But yeah, it was always going to be a splash of fuel.
So Matt and I were talking during the race about the fact that you guys have been throwing a lot of different curveballs here this season. Of course, the random qualifying, this racetrack, Burt Screwdrivers Raceway, thrown onto the schedule, alternating with Talladega. The playoffs have gotten a facelift here as well. 6 races, 3 rounds, the final round, 2 races. Now, last year, it came down between you and 3 others. Best, highest finisher ends up winning the championship. You went on to win the race and the championship. Now that you have to kind of average it out, best finish in 2 races, is the approach the same here, 1 season removed from your championship season, or is it different?
Nah, same strategy as usual. I mean, just of course, you always want to win, but you're not going to win every race. So you need to just take what you can get a lot of times and just try to put good finishes together. I actually was thinking about this a few seasons or a while ago. I've actually every format that the admins here have come up with, I've actually been able to win it, been lucky enough to win a championship in, whether it's outright points for the entire season, 6 race chase, where the points are compiled, or like last season. So it's always worked for me running the way I have, and I'm not going to change. I don't feel like I need to change it.
Well, it's definitely been a good combination for you. We'll be looking forward to seeing here in these 6 playoff races if you're able to double down with back-to-back championships and win in this new format. Congratulations on a job well done here tonight. Another dramatic finish here this evening. You lock yourself into the playoffs not only through top 12, but also get those nice bonus points as well. Not only with the race victory, but also second in the overall standings. We know that the points positions pay out bonus points as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what you're able to do here when we begin the playoffs next week. Before we let you go to get back to celebrating, the floor is yours for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Thank you to everybody at RTG, everybody that donates, the work of the owners, the admins, Donnie Garrett for also sponsoring the series, Ultimate Garage Floors. I want to shout out to Mike Scott. I know he watches. Happy belated birthday. Miss racing with you, buddy. And last week, if things didn't end the way they did, wanted to wish a late guy, or a guy I used to race with who's now passed away, Bruce Phelan. Happy birthday also. We miss you. But yeah, just thank you, everybody.
That's Brian Schilling. He is playoff bound en route to trying to defend his championship from last season. He's your winner here tonight in the regular season finale of season 58 of the Tally Challenge. Congratulations, Brian, and best of luck next week as you go to work.
Thank you.
And want to give a big shout out to the RTG admins. They have compiled the points for us here to be able to give you the playoff drivers heading into the start of next week's battle for the championship. Josh Metallic, he is going to be your regular season champion by 3 points over tonight's race winner, Brian Schilling. Grant Wesley is going to finish out the regular season third in points. Bobby Farrell drops to fourth, but he is going to be in the playoffs. Joe DeSpirito is fifth. Two-time winner Keith Hughes in sixth. Jeremy Jeffries in seventh. Eighth for Bob Seminara. Richard Martin's going to be ninth. Rodney Sullins, he drops, but he's going to be 10th. Kelly Causey in 11th, and John Godfrey was able to move up into the 12th position. Does not have to rely on his season opening victory to get into the playoffs. He gets in via top 12 in points. Doug Hewlick is going to finish in 13th position, former winner, which means 13 drivers will be battling for the championship here when the green flag flies at Talladega next week. And Matt, when you look at this, you've got some of the familiar faces there. Metallic, Schilling, Wesley, DeSpirito. These are all former champions. Bob Seminara. But then you've got the kind of some underdog potential stories there. Rodney Sullins has been in the Final Four a couple of times, but hasn't been able to win the championship. Kelly Causey, I believe this is the second season he's pointed his way into the playoffs. John Godfrey, Doug Hewlick. And we talked with Jeremy Jeffries. This is the one championship that's really eluded him. He ended up winning 4 championships in different series back in season 57. He's not been able to win this championship. So there are a lot of hungry drivers that are not only looking to continue success, but get some added new success.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch the remainder of the season, just see what kind of, if they're able to settle it down or if we just continue to see chaos.
So I posed this question to Donnie, and I'm going to ask you. I mean, there's going to be 13 drivers battling for the championship. Depending on the field sizes, we can have anywhere from 23 to 25 drivers on the track. There's no championship points, no playoff points on the line. They're just out there for checkered flags. If you're a playoff contender, how do you make sure that you're aware not only of what's going on between you and your playoff drivers, but also bear in mind that, this guy here, he's got nothing to lose. He may race me a lot more aggressive than he would if he was also in a playoff position. I need to make sure that I'm not in the eye of the storm and put myself in a deep hole points wise in the first round.
Oh, these guys are going to be spending this whole week making deals, trying to figure out whatever they can. But then ultimately, like I said several times this race, once the green flag drops, everything is out the window. It's just a matter of good luck.
These drivers, they're going to rely on luck. They're going to rely on skill. They're going to have to rely on maybe the qualifying gods giving them a good starting track position for next week's race, because it all begins at Talladega Superspeedway next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We begin the Season 58 playoffs here for the RTG Talladega Challenge. 13 drivers will enter. At the end of 6 races, only one driver will emerge victorious as champion. Hope you guys will join us for that one. Congratulations to Brian Schilling once again on his victory here tonight, and the 13 drivers that have advanced into this season's battle for the championship. Matt, I appreciate you joining me up in the booth. It was a nail-biter here tonight, whether it be for playoff spots or just who was going to make it across the start-finish line. Appreciate you joining me here this evening.
It was a lot of fun, and RTG does not disappoint. You never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And with that said, again, tune in next week because it should be another RTG classic. But for Matt McIntyre, I'm Seth Cole. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday night. Until then, you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support